My name is Heather Schatz, and I am the moderator, the proud moderator, today of this is our last event of the day. And each of the panelists here come from, though they share, I think, a certain amount of tone or even various elements or aspects of their work, one of the things I noticed in doing a little research about them as an artist myself is they all have relatively slim profiles online about themselves. They would fall into a category of people I call much more interested in talking about their work than themselves, which I think as you see their work will become self-evident in how and what they present to you. So what I first just wanted to do was just give you a quick introduction to each person, and I've asked each one of them to come up with a word that defines their practice. And I thought we'd just take a little moment to perhaps have them tell us each one of what those words are and maybe a little bit about themselves. So without further ado, on my left here is Michael Beneville, or Benville, depending on how quickly you say it. He's the founder of Benville Studios, and again, he's one of these more elusive people online to put research information together on. But one of the things I sort of wanted to do, since you're my first friend here at the conference, is to tell us about your word and then maybe just tell us a little about yourself and your practice.
Certainly. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. It's wonderful to be here. And what a day. Truly, truly. Tony, wherever you are. Yeah, there you are. Wow. I mean, round of applause again. It's just incredible. No, really. Yeah. I had no idea where I would really be this week at the end of this week, and it's great to just be here. It was one of those present moments sitting on the bus. A word. You put me on the spot. The thing that popped into my head wasn't probably what the word should be. The word should probably be discreet, something like that. But unbridled is what popped into my head when you asked me to think of a word of how we work. Yeah. Is that? Are we passing it on down?
Okay. We might be doing this more round.
Okay.
Latricia or Titia?
Yeah, my name is Titia, but Latricia you can also say. Well, hello. And well, what pops up my mind is a promise. And so my material is light, and light is like like poetry. It's reading between the lines. It's working with light. It is working with place. It's working with solid, but also with infinity. So light is also spiritual. So it is kind of promise.
Yes, my name is Christopher Janney. I've trained as an architect and a jazz musician. And one word, curious.
Hey, my name is Robb. I'm the founder of Digital Ambiance. We're a small but growing light art design firm out of Berkeley. We specialize in bespoke, interactive, custom light art pieces. So big chandeliers, city arts projects, interactive pieces. If it's custom and it's lit up, then we'll do it. We're all engineers who are also artists, and we kind of came out of the Burning Man scene. So it's a group of people who found each other through the Burning Man experience and took the skills that we all had and combined it into a design practice. I think my word would be persistent, because it took persistence to get here. Every piece is an exercise in persistence. Got to beat the challenges. Got to be persistent.
Excellent. Mike here.
Sorry.
I'll keep that over here. As an introduction of the work that we'll be showing at some point, I thought of the question, which was, how do you use technology to create multi-sensory experience? And with all questions, at first I thought, is that actually the right question? because I think so much of what we are as an audience to this work is first of all trying to understand what is relevant or salient to you. So I sort of wanted to put that out there as a question that I'd led you to, and then more specifically, and I'll just ask Michael, since you're right here, do you consider the audience as part of the context of your work? Like when you make work, is the audience an element?
The audience is the element for me. A few things I think as I used to look out of the quad in college and sort of marvel at the pathways and think, wow, these architects were incredible at predicting where people would walk between classes. That's fascinating. But the dirt paths are really what's fascinating. And I say that to my team all the time. When we build something, it's not until it's populated, it's not until people are interacting with it, it's not until it's alive that you actually see, well, all the best laid plans of mices and mooses, But you asked about the initial question about technology. What was it again?
Yeah, so the classic sort of question is, how do you use technology to create multisensory experience?
It feels like a new question or a new debate, but it isn't. I had a professor once who said to me, oil paint was technology, was science. It was to paint stuff better, to make gold and pearls and jewels look better so that the commissioned works of art would resonate and look better than tempera or something like that. So my studio is agnostic to medium. We make books, we make immersive rooms, we make puzzles that last for years, we build complexes, we think through all sorts of different things. So technology for me is just another medium. I know that's because I think when we speak about technology in this day and age, we're thinking sort of digitally and mechanically and all of those sorts of things. But it's always been part of the artist's journey.
Yeah, Latricia, one of the things having to do specifically with creating a new language of work is literally, do you find language sufficient to describe what you do, or is that a frustration for you?
You mean the language to talk here? Yeah, that's hard for me. It's actually, what you said, it's easier to make the work than present the work myself, but I also want to learn from everybody, so that's why I'm here. And people, your first question was about people. That's a very important thing, how people move, how they react, how they live. So it comes all together in the work.
Oh, sorry. Christopher, when we'd sort of been, I think this came up a little bit before, and I'll jump right to it, but how do you deal with longevity in the works that you create?
Well, I'm 68. How's that for longevity? I've been building interactive light and sound installations for 40 years, and in public spaces, a lot of airport projects. We have to think about maintenance, and we have to introduce the issue of maintenance right at the very beginning with the airport or the commission. It's quite fascinating. Here we are in 2018, and the New York City MTA doesn't seem to understand about maintenance for artworks. I said, guys, really? Because you're doing a lot on the trains. But as opposed to, I think it's the San Francisco Art Commission has a budget set aside, annual budget, very, very important just for maintenance. So that's always an issue. We have because of the kind of work that I do, we have an internet connection to all 35 installations that I've created so far. We have people that check them on a regular basis, so we understand that they're working properly. And in a lot of cases, it's so that we're watching the watcher. There is somebody at the organization or at the airport who's supposed to be doing this, but we make sure they're doing it. Ah, that's interesting.
Does that sound familiar?
No.
Does that sound familiar to anybody?
No, it's not one of mine.
Well, let me jump to Robb. One of the parts as a segue to you, I was trying to think of a question that wasn't too leading about this, but once you've completed a piece, do you have the feeling that you want to keep working on it? Or is there a sense of finality?
It totally depends on the piece. You know, some pieces we cannot wait to be done with, and some pieces, you know, they go through iterations. We've done some public installations where they come back and they say, well, we want to expand the functionality of this piece. We did this interactive canopy system in California just recently, and they came back and they're like, well, you know, we do these art walks now, and every Sunday there's a band that plays underneath these things. We want to make it audio reactive. So we came back and did it. And we just finished a piece for the burn this year that it will undoubtedly go through multiple iterations and continue to evolve as time goes on. And yeah, I mean, I think that's in an ideal scenario, you wouldn't finish a piece just with the installation of a piece. You would keep developing it. But the reality is development costs money, and clients a lot of the time are not artists, and they, you know, when they've done it, and that's it, and you don't get the chance. So
yeah, Rob and I connected just before, and I realized that he built one of my favorite cars at the burn this year. And I just wanted to follow up to that. It was my 10th year. I go there to be humbled. And what I think is really special about what the answer to your question was in that car is that the culture out at Burning Man allows you to revisit year and year and year and year and year, and to add and add and add until you just decide the car doesn't need to come back or the camp doesn't need to be that way. And I think that's really, really wonderful. That's a place where the project doesn't end that year.
Well, we're fortunate in this particular project where we have a patron who is he's down. You know, he is truly a patron of the arts. This wasn't a commercial project. This was like he wanted to leave his mark. That's awesome.
It's a cathedral on wheels, literally. Yeah.
Latricia, from your standpoint, and this is a more fundamental question, but when you think about making your work and starting it, do you know right away who your collaborators are, who your team's going to be, what your needs are?
No, it's depending what the starting point is, and what I'm going to do. And sometimes it's you need a very small team with only specialists, and sometimes you need really a big corporate.
So what would be one of the most unusual specialists in your lighting field that you would need?
Well, somebody who's building on platforms in the ocean, and knew a lot about water and salt and that kind of thing, so could integrate it. And now I'm working on a new piece, and I need a specialist on beds. So because they in the evening they fly out and they
bats.
Bats, yes.
I thought beds, but bats.
Bats. Sorry. But so it's every time it's different, and also what the clients sometimes want, and what they don't end sometimes at all, and otherwise it's so much different every time. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just got you, Michael, just as far as, I want to just have you talk a little bit about immersive art. Christopher, the whole notion of your work, because I know you deal with sound. Is there a way for you to describe to us how and what that word means as far as being immersive, or can it be more immersive?
Well, no, I mean, it's a good word that I've used for many, many years, because that was my interest, was to, how can I let you sort of wrap art around you like a blanket. I wanted to step into the painting. I didn't want to just look at it. I didn't want to just walk around the sculpture. I wanted to walk into it, and that's primarily why I studied architecture in college. But, it was always towards the idea of making some kind of immersive environment. And then it dawned on me that being a musician and how sound can be so immersive, and certainly a lot of the experiments of the 60s in the art world of combining, and the 60s, the 20s, the 30s, combining art and music, art and sound, composers experimenting with smell, experimenting with light. So I could see that this notion of synesthesia, of using two different senses simultaneously, that could help create not only this immersive experience, but create also a very unique experience that I couldn't get with either just sound or just light and form. So the immersion quality has always been an interest and a part of my work. And then I've looked for ways, I do a lot of work with transparent, large transparent colored glass, especially in architectural projects. So the thing that I love the most about it is the colored shadows that basically paint the whole space the color of whatever the sunlight is putting the shadow on the floor. And then people walk through those shadows. And then I also usually have a sound environment. So that's how I can try to also bring immersion out of the studio and into the public sphere, because that's also a very important aspect of the work.
That's very helpful, and I don't know why, but Rob, for some reason that took me to, as I was looking at some of your work online, one of the things I like specifically about it is you make it look so easy. And I wonder if that's perhaps a little bit of your background from production, or just really needing to make sure that it was a seamless experience. So maybe you can talk a little bit about, is it easy?
I mean, no, nothing about making anything is easy if it's new and unique. But I think that a successful piece is a piece that looks complete. My background is concert touring, and that's a very much like, you don't let the audience see behind the curtain. There's an experience, you're creating that experience. There's an effect, you design and you create that effect, and you present it. And you present it in the way that the designer is envisioning that effect. So, I feel like I came up with a lot of like hackers, like hardware hackers, people who were like exploring the technology for art purposes. And the common thread was, it was always an explosion of wires and, oh shit, my thing just failed, let me jump back there and fix it real quick. And in my mind, that defined the difference between, like a professional art piece or professional artist and an amateur. And it's not amateur in a bad way, but it's an amateur in a, I'm just discovering my trade. And we all pride ourselves on being like, we do what we do professionally.
I wanted to react on this because it just in that other forum was the man from Montreal was saying, like, we take over. Is it an art piece? No, we actually the artist is giving this piece to the audience, but there is still a control, so people can apply for this art piece probably on screen, but you have the amateurs and you have the professionals. And people don't know what they're doing. And there is a bridge built in Istanbul, beautiful with all the lights, and like also in what we saw from San Francisco, the bridge. But somebody is just pushing some buttons, and this bridge is doing all the time this. And so there's no light program, there's no vision, there's nothing left. So I don't agree with the man from Montreal that artists have to give up their work.
Yeah, if I could just speak a little bit of that. If you, as a musician, if you think of all music composed of melody, rhythm, and harmony, in my works, I give up the rhythm to the public. How they interact with the work, how they trigger it, it's up to them. But I control the rhythm, the harmonic, and the melodic aspects of it. So in a sense, I'm structuring a kind of game, and that's where the artwork will either succeed or fail. How well did you make the rules of the game almost intuitive in that sense? You don't want to put a board up there saying, don't do this, don't do this. You have to think about ways to coax people into doing certain things, touching this, waving by this. But then what they trigger, you control. and you control that so that it also changes over time. So more people come in, that's a thing that changes the quality. So it's very much been what they call an open score in music, where you allow the elements that are happening within the place, within the piece, to become a part of the piece.
Yeah, I want to roll that to you, Michael, just to, when you were selected for this particular panel with this word of multisensory, did that resonate with you? And can you describe to us what multisensory even might be?
Yeah, the couple of pieces that pop into my mind when you mention that is we did the corporate headquarters for iHeartMedia, and we're designing their headquarters or their offices all across the country. They have 300 offices. But when Bob Pittman said, "I want people to walk in the door, I want them to say who the f- are these people, and I want them to get it in 5 seconds." And all of this needs to be achieved with off-the-shelf technology. You're not going to, invent any crazy thing. Literally smoke and mirrors. And we literally did smoke and mirrors. And what was cool about the project is, and what you're saying is, I believe in that coaxing, and I also believe that to really make something effective, you have to give your viewer some sense of agency, some ability to navigate the piece and enter it in the way that they choose to. A great writer does that with a book and then partners with a publisher and everybody, and the whole thing, right down to the dust cover, is the way that you are entering the story. So this tunnel is about the length of this room, and it's got a very specific design. It is supposed to make New York City disappear. The car, the whatever happened, the meeting that you're heading to, all of that is just supposed to disappear as you are now here. And it's a tunnel, and it's a tunnel that is filled with lights, and as you walk through the tunnel, you tune live feeds of the radio stations across the country. But it's silent until you're walking through it. So it's visually arresting as you get off of the elevator, and it's been fantastic to see how people then take that first step. They realize, oh, okay, there's something happening. I'm playing a radio station. And the further they go in, they start to tune in all kinds of different things. Another person follows in. Now you've got this sort of cacophony of sound that's happening, and people are literally experiencing, digesting, and feeling the brand. The thing that they're there to see. By the way, there's also a curtain of mist that comes down on occasion when we want to do it, and into that we can project logos. We can have Ryan Seacrest saying hi, welcome to iHeart or whatever it is. So that multisensory, I would go even one step, and this will sound crazy, but to me, the works that we make are infused with the experience of making them. The relations we have with the client, the other co-collaborators, the creators, all of that just sort of sets the tone of the work. And the really successful projects are actually made with really nice people, and everything just goes according to plan, and the money flows, and the thing goes right, and the obstacles and hurdles that happen are the ones that you want on the hero's journey or the artist's journey, all that stuff. So the piece itself actually begins to resonate with that energy. So for sensory to me, that sensory to me goes right down to bringing the people working on the project a cup of coffee at 3 o'clock in the morning. We just recently did that because that's what you need to get over the edge. That cup of coffee finds its way into the work, I swear to God. What we're listening to, what we're eating, what we're doing, how we welcome guests into our studios, how we sell, all of that is what we're capturing.
So now we know multisensory includes the cup of coffee. I think this is important, and I have no snacks for you, so that was my failure. Latricia, can you just tell us a little bit more about the dimensions of light that relate to multisensory?
Sorry?
Just talk to us a little bit about how light I have an oversimplified word, like there's a light bulb. Talk to us a little bit about the language of light.
Okay. Well, I made also work in a tunnel with light, not with sound. And what's interesting in tunnels is that it's only functional light. And with traffic, you have to, actually people don't want to go to tunnels, but they have to, but they feel unloved. And I thought, well, how can I work with this? So I thought, let's make it dynamic. And so you're entering this tunnel with the car, and the light is going with you. but it's not interactive. So it's not like you do a step and then the car, because it couldn't be with all the cars. But I made the light like a landscape. So it starts with you, and it goes to the end of the tunnel. It's a different light. And but what happened, of course, is this: there was no example to do this, and people were afraid there would be an accident, and who was then responsible? So they said, no, you're only allowed to do this, but we know just light as a bulb. And who is responsible? The artist or the mayor of the city, of the constructor. And so I went to the University of Technology and put the concept in a driver's stimulation. And it was a party. It was just like, oh yeah, this is great to go through this tunnel. This is finally actually what you want. And that's so strange. Also, we're sitting here in a dark room about light. Why are we not sitting with daylight? Because actually we need this. It's day. So because of the screen, but at home we have also a screen, and we don't close the curtains. So I think people should be more aware of what they need for light, because light is of course of daylight, and
I think that's helpful as far as people beginning to focus.
Yes.
And really concentrate on that element. And I think Christopher, I know when we were talking about, you had talked about music, and obviously we have no music or sound here, but
What?
is
Everything you do is music,
and that's
and
what,
everywhere is the best seat.
see, I led you right into that one. No, so sound and music is there. Is that again one of the misnomers that we carry into work that uses planned or chaotic or just any form of the dimension of tone? Just look at that.
Music right
See?
there. So tell me a little.
Just talk to it. I get really the difference between sound and music, or if that's even irrelevant, or.
Well, you see, John Cage was a very good friend of mine, and actually that quote I just said was from him. So, as far as he was concerned, and the world that I work in, is that all sound is music, and but I also do studio compositions, with regular jazz players, and then I also do a lot of sort of environmental soundscapes, and a lot of the interactive light and sound installations will be a mix of indigenous sounds that are part of whatever city I'm in, whether it's Miami or LA or San Antonio, mixed with melodic instruments. So on the one hand, when I do a public installation, I want people to be familiar with the sounds that they're hearing, indigenous sounds, but also then I add melodic and musical components. So in the end, you have to rely on yourself, your intuition as an artist. Does it sound good? Does it look good? Is it good? I mean, I think it was Henry Moore who said, if I could just talk about it, I wouldn't make it.
Well, actually, Christopher, when you create the indigenous sounds,
Yeah.
are people actually, is the audience or the participants, do they realize that those are part of the work, or is that
well, I
often
mean, if I do a lot of major airports, and so, and that's always a great place. I pick the sounds from that area. If it's in Miami, you've got the sounds of the seagulls and the ocean. You got to mix with the sounds of the Florida Everglades. Okay, so, and that's also why you're walking through this abstract environment of color. So people get off the plane from South America or wherever, and that's their introduction to coming into Miami.
Robb, when I was, just hearing just the conversation of sound or music, as a millennial or as someone who's, let's say, thinking about that these are parts of your artwork having multisensory elements has always been a given. Is there a way that you believe that your audience is different based on their age or their location? Or can you tell us just a little bit about your perception of how your work is perceived by different demographics?
That is a tough question because everybody's perspective is so unique. I think that the younger the audience, or the more immersed in current culture an audience member is, the more discerning and there's an expectation of interactivity. No one wants to sit and watch TV anymore. People want to be part of an installation. They want to interact with things. They see something, they want to climb on it, they want to touch it, they want it to react to them. I think that is a growing expectation, which I think everybody on this panel has been aware of for a long time, and the world at large is starting to perceive that people understand now, you know, and it's great for us because that means there's more business, you know, like there's a new industry, and it's like this industry that is like, I don't even know what to call it. It's like interactive plaything design.
Well, one of the works I wanted to show is an interactive light flower, and when I made it in 2010, people, the grown-ups hardly came over. They were like, oh, it's for kids. So they were standing there and, yeah, you do your thing. And now the grown-ups are actually forgetting their children and play with it and look into each other and say, oh, no, you have to go out. It's my color. And no, and so it's completely different in a short time.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Benville, and we've had the pleasure of being over in the theater and now here. My studio is based in New York City, in Flatiron, 19th between Broadway and 5th. I've been in the city for 23 years in October. Prior to that, I lived in many different countries and places, and now I've sort of found home, and I split my time between there and Venice, California, and then wherever projects take me. Our studio is something I like to call, and I feel, you know, we sat on the bus yesterday and you said, it's nice to be in this group because you don't have to begin by explaining robots and AI and augmented reality and robot, you know, all these things. We're amongst friends. So we can just sort of dive right in. I don't have to give you the sort of the singular answer for a particular client. I can tell you that what we run is an idea manifestation machine. It has taken me my life to build it. It is an extension of all of the various things that I'm interested in and was born with the talents to have and then develop. I paint, I sing, I act, I write, I invent, I create. And I don't like to be alone. And painting and things was sort of a lonely practice. So I built a team, and I have a little team of ninjas in New York, and we solve problems. We have a narrow, quiet business that builds one-of-a-kind objects for families and individuals around the world, and we'll spend 2 or 3 years sometimes building an artifact, a book, a machine, an immersive room, an adventure that lasts for months and months. I don't know what to call what it is we do. I don't know if it's art, design, whatever. It doesn't really matter to me. We get to build it. So there are a couple of little projects I'll show you really quickly that are right in the works right now. This is the entrance to iHeartMedia. We designed the corporate headquarters for iHeart about 4 or 5 years ago, and now we are helping to oversee 5 million square feet of real estate across the country and changing it office by office, place by place. Bob Pittman, who was the creator of MTV and is now running iHeart, it was Clear Channel for years and years and years. He said, and I said this in the theater, he said, I want people to walk through the door, Michael. I want them to say, who the fuck are these people? And I want them to get it in 5 seconds. That's your task. And you have to achieve this with no new technology. And so we felt it was a radio station. It needed to be, you know, visually arresting. And so what happens is as you pass through the tunnel, you're the needle of a radio. And you tune live feeds of iHeart around the country, and you are you have agency as you pass through it. We also were able to cut through many floors of the building to create these dramatic spaces and billboards. This is the presentation portal. It's 15 screens in an immersive room. It has a robotic arm, like your robotic arm in the ceiling. And as you pluck the lasers, you move from New York to London to wherever it is that you need to be. So that's the presentation portal in iHeart. we have just opened, and part of the design team that Think and a bunch of other groups have been working on in New York City. This is open to the public now. We've worked on it in secret for 3 years. We cut through a floor of the Empire State Building, but we're part of the team that's reimagining the entire visitor experience of going to the top of the Empire State Building. So 4 million visitors a year line up. And then at the top, they see this extraordinary thing. But along the way, it was always a little sad. And now it's getting a world-class renovation. It is a collaboration of just unbelievable talents. But this was sort of late at night when I was cutting up some paper, and that's when we sort of thought, oh, hey, we could put a big, gigantic model here, and we would solve the pain point of the fact that the Empire State Building is so big that when you're close to it, you can't have a picture in front of it. And when you're far away from it, even though it towers up above everything else, you still have buildings in the way. So it's been great to just sort of see tens of thousands of people looking. That's the finished work right there, and Peter Tagarian is a master model builder who built the actual model when it came there. Some of our work we build in our studio, the bespoke stuff, the books, that all comes in as skins and the mechanics and machinery, we do that. And other times we are working to help build all of the teams that bring these projects together. The last thing I will show, oh, wow, I've got 1 minute and 43 seconds. Kind of not, right? Area 15 is really exciting for me. This began with the Fisher brothers. They bought 100 acres of Las Vegas in 2004, and then they watched the entire economy collapse. But it was okay. They just sat on the land, and then they hired our studio to say, what should we do with this land? And we looked at the city, and we thought about who's served by the Strip, and I absolutely love going to Las Vegas. It's a kitschy, fun, amazing thing. And 95% of the people I think who go to Las Vegas are satisfied, but not everyone. So we thought, what could we build 7 minutes from the Strip? And what we're building is Area 15. This is our marketing center. In it, there's a Bart Cressa and Josh Harker's 16-foot high projection map skull. Every angle of that, it's just unbelievable. Sort of one of our pieces that goes into Area 15 when it opens at the end of 2019. It will be one of, if not the largest gallery of just alternative art in the country, if not the world. A lot of pieces that you were saying earlier, you're sort of happy that they find a place after Burning Man. That's where they come. And that's what it looks like on the inside, parts of it, and that's what the building looks like from the end.
Latricia, before you get started, I'd asked each of these artists to tell me one word that described their practice, and Michael's word was discreet. Has it changed since 40 minutes ago?
Well, I said unbridled also.
Okay, I missed that one. Titia, do you want to get started?
Yes.
And your word was promise.
Promise, but I thought maybe it should be poetry.
Portrait? Good.
Yep.
Take it away.
Okay. So my name is Titia X. I'm based in Amsterdam. This is the flower from the universe. It is an interactive light flower. And I was inspired in the botanical garden because I've always want to make something what makes a connection with the surrounding and with the people, how they move, and also what's happening. And actually, plants live from light and from wind, and they have to, how do you say it? Yeah, photosynthesis. So they get their food of, so they have to attract the visitors. They have to attract it, and they have to look at the, to shine, to bright. So I made this interactive light flower, and the people are the visitors. And so there are sensors around it, and the heart is a brain cell. And so it was for 3 months out of in the botanical garden, and it's traveling afterwards. And I was just also explaining. I start with my installations with the surrounding, but this one is traveling around the world, and it's going now in November. It goes to Niagara Falls. So you can see it and play with it. And here you can see how it works, and you can make any color, and people can work together. And I show this piece also in East Jerusalem, And actually, so the colors are connecting and mingling, and so the people get the colors go together, and yeah, it's a fantastic piece. Okay, I should go further. Okay, this is my tunnel. Dolmen Light is based on the region in that part of the Netherlands, but it's also, there was 5,000 years ago, there was this beaker culture, and they built dolmens. So it's part of Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands. And so that's the pattern is based on this. And what I wanted is to make a tunnel, what is with dynamic light, and there was no example. So we had to find out how we could do this, and because most people are afraid of tunnels. 40% goes too fast, or goes too slow, or even stops in a tunnel. People don't want to go into a tunnel. A tunnel feels unloved. So the behavior of people is very awkward in tunnels. So I went to the technology of the University of Technology and made the drawings in a stimulator, and so you could drive through it. And actually the opposite happened, because we all have to, the lights have to be static, also in tunnels, but in here, people felt really like welcome, and also like it is a pleasure to go through this. And yeah, I got several awards around the world for this piece, because a lot of people thought, well, why didn't we think of this? And so that's what art also can do. So, and I made the light pattern like a landscape. So you're coming from a dynamic landscape, and it takes you with, it goes with you, and it goes a little bit like this. So it's not straight. It's not. It's really with a feeling. If you would put on one wall blue and on the wall green, it would be flat and it wouldn't work, in my opinion. Okay, this is the last one. It's called Juicy Lights. This is a drawing, and it's a permanent work on at a market street in Amsterdam, and it's based on the market, of course, 6 days a week, but also on the name giver of the street, Ten Katen, and he is from 1866. He made a poem, and he's trying to connect the Bible with the science at that time, Darwin, and saying, well, the paradise here. That's it.
Paradise is here. We have Christopher Janney next, and Christopher, your word to describe your practice was?
Curious. And I'm curiously clicking. There you go. Well, we'll see if it works. Okay, here we go. Where am I pointing this? Guys? Here? Anywhere? Okay. I'm trained as an architect and a jazz musician. So sometimes I try to make architecture more like music, as in what I call my urban musical instruments. Sometimes I try to make music more like architecture, what I call physical music. So let's just have a little see if this will. So let's go to the next one. So here we are, some examples of my urban musical instruments. I use sound, interactive sound, and also then a lot of transparent colored glass in the architectural installations. The upper left there is a walkway in the Miami airport. The next one to the right there is the entire facade of a 8-story parking structure in Fort Worth, Texas. So, and you see in the lower right, that's actually a 7-story structure at Logan Airport in Boston, Massachusetts. And the one to the left of that is a project I did with Wagner Murray. You here? Raise your hand. No. He was here earlier. It's a interactive facade. It's called Touch My Building. And you basically have 36 stations around which, wait a minute, I bet we have a picture. We'll talk about this one first. This was actually the first urban musical instrument, the Spanish Steps in Rome. And this was a piece I did called Sound Stair. It was a touring piece, done it all over the world, but we basically plug into existing stairways and turn them into musical staircases, music and environmental sounds. And here you see on this particular tour is with a percussionist and a choreographer, and then when they're not performing, it's all for the public. This is the piece Light Shadow, which actually won the award this year at Coda Works in the education category. This is a 36-foot wide wall, 200 sensors, interactive light and sound in the Martin Luther King Elementary School. I remember the day it opened, the headmaster turned to me and said, the kids are going to love this. I said, well, I thought that's what I was getting paid for. Here it is. Okay, Touch My Building. And you can see it was the entire facade. There's 36 stations. The other interesting piece is what you see there, that text. That's a riddle. And if it's on a small plaque, 8-inch by 10-inch plaque on the building. And if a person can decipher the riddle and touch the panels in the right order, the entire building lights up with light and sound and sort of does a little dance of its own. But that kind of game I like to try to bring into the architectural installations. It brings people back to the piece. It makes it have a life that continues. This is the Whistle Grove in Cincinnati, Ohio. This was a competition for the National Steamboat Monument. I made an interactive steam sound light installation. And we're just going there next month to upgrade it. So we can also talk about maintenance. The interesting thing is that every 4 years they have a festival, the Tall Stacks Festival, and steamboats come from around and, whoops, there we go. So I actually made it so that it was interactive, so that I bring along a musician who plays an electronic wind instrument. We plug that into the computer, and he plays the entire fountain together with members of the Cincinnati Pops brass section. And this is the page from the score. Last but not least, Sonic Forest. This is a piece I've been doing for over 10 years there. It's an interactive light sound installation that tours major music festivals, especially when my children were teenagers, so I could get them to behave. I said, if you don't do your homework, you're not coming on tour with me. So they did the homework. It worked. At Making Waves Tonight, I'll show a little clip from the performance piece where they're actually dancing to the sound of their own heartbeat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Rob, last but not least, and I believe your word was?
Persistence. Gotta be my name's Robb. I'm the founder and the principal artist of Digital Ambiance. We're a lighting design firm based out of Berkeley. I kind of came up into this industry through the concert touring industry. So did lighting and video projection for concert touring. And then I ended up in the Bay when I burned out and decided that I wanted a home. Yeah, so we specialize in interactive and bespoke light art pieces. And a lot of our team I met through the Burning Man Arts Festival. This is my 9th year. Usually I'm involved in some piece or another, but Digital Ambience is not focused on Burning Man art. It just happens to be that we're there every year. Yeah. So where are we putting this? Cool. Yeah. So this is the piece that we did this year. This has been a 2-year process, 2-year build, and it's a private commission for a patron. And he came to us and he said that he wanted to create a cathedral, a Gothic cathedral, that was also a sound stage on a file. And he kind of let us have our way with it. You know, we did the whole thing from soup to nuts. The facade, the fabrication of the frame, all the show systems. my role was lighting design and show systems design. So taking the lasers, pyro, LED, and mapping those systems and creating a control system that would run the show. I got to work with some amazing artists on the system, and it was a huge hit. We felt a lot of love, and it was very gratifying to have that reception after 2 years of building. You know, you lose sight of something when you just are staring at the guts for 2 years in a warehouse. This is definitely one of our longer running installations. But we found our niche in the entertainment industry. Most of what we do is architectural light art pieces. So this is a piece that we did in collaboration with HOK, which is an architecture firm based out of Los Angeles. And they came to us and they said they wanted to create an installation that looked like a light waterfall. They wanted it to be light and flowing and low profile. So like our main superpower, I guess, is hardware fabrication. And what we did was we created custom LED pixels, custom drivers, and a system to hang these pixels from the ceiling. So this is about 5 stories of light tapestry. You can't tell from these pictures because our client insisted on a solid white look. But this is a volumetric display. So every one of those pixels is addressable, and we can run 3-dimensional holographic patterns through this thing, which we did until the client told us to make it all white. Whatever, fine. This is a piece that we did in California. It's a series of canopies, and the goal was to create an interactive light art piece. So on the corner of each one of these canopies is a FLIR camera, which is a heat-sensitive camera. You ever seen like Predator? It's Predator vision, basically. And so these things are all aimed at the ground beneath these canopies. And so when somebody walks under it, a dog walks under it, whatever, that is the seed for the light pattern that flows over these things. And then after we did that, they had us come back and make it audio reactive. So that's a sample of my work. You guys can find it at digitalambiance.com. I'm going to cut out now before the beep.
Here we go.